Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back here. I wanted to try out a new series that we're gonna work on, just kind of going over uh, just different dinosaur species, dinosaur facts, or anything new within the dinosaur world. And with this, we will be playing some Jurassic uh, World Evolution 3 in the background, so please enjoy my guys just chilling out in the back. We do have a male and female Tyrannosaurus Rex just coming roaming around and providing some entertainment for y'all. But let's get into it. So, Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Tyrant King Lizard. Definitely one of the most popular dinosaurs in existence, capturing the imagination of people everywhere. The Tyrant King Lizard has held a wide standing of love in the dinosaur community since around 1902 when the creature was discovered, and has dominated the big screen and video games alike. Hence, you have everything. You have Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, so many video games that revolve around dinosaurs that have to include the T-Rex, documentaries that we have on him, or just them in general as a species. And each year, new discoveries are being made, and what we thought we knew about these massive carnivores changes based on the new research that we are able to pull together and work through. So, all this research is done through the hard work of paleontologists and uh, just within the either the museums they work for, corporate or not really corporations they work for, but just like the research studies that they're able to put together, obtaining their grants and working through everything. Some of the biggest T-Rex names have helped in a lot of these discoveries. I will admit, there's one main one that I personally follow very closely, and that is Sue the T-Rex up in the Chicago Field Museum. I personally love just reading about the new research that is involved with her, either via like the DNA related, of course, or just any new discoveries they've made about her. And so, what they do, and I want to give a little backstory into Sue herself, is Sue's been housed at the Chicago Field Museum for decades. Mostly, of course, in most museums, a standing replica of what we can put together stands. I do believe that they put her skull on display on occasion, but of course, in the back areas is where they'll have the original fossils. And then with it, what they do is they will take portions of those fossils and they have done some deconstructive analysis. So this does result in the loss of some parts of the fossils, very minuscule amounts. But with that, even though some things are lost to deconstruction, we've been able to identify a lot about T Rexes that we weren't able to know before. A lot of things that we've been able to identify and things that we may have known yet may not have studied quite yet in T-Rexes, but I know have been studied in Sue are growth rings. If you were to essentially slice open parts of like the femur and slice from the side, just like trees, each year as the bone grows, it produces these rings, and you can kind of see the growth. The interesting part too with animals, and just like within trees, you can see the good years of where the growth would be exponential and kind of predicting juvenile years versus slower adult years. Just like all animals, you tend to grow quicker when you're younger and then start slowing down as an adult because you fully come into your like final shape, your form. And that's pretty typical with animals. But we have those growth rings. And another thing that's always amazed me with Sue as well is recently, within the past decade, they have discovered using Sue that T-Rexes are warm-blooded. It has been long-standing within a lot of the community, and you go back and watch a lot of the old movies. Oh, T-Rexes are cold-blooded killers. They're not. They actually are warm-blooded, could regulate their body heat just like us. And with that, it makes it for a very interesting hypotheses and other research breakthroughs to go over, because with that you have to think, okay, well, their skulls have the huge eyes and exceptionally great vision, night vision, and taking into account as well the warm-bloodedness, they could hunt at night. Whereas a lot of research that I have been reading, a lot of the larger herbivores still seem to be cold blooded. So at night, they most likely would hunker down for some sleep. Whereas the T Rex, and they're actually looking at maybe a lot of carnivores, could be warm blooded, could have done a lot of their hunting at night. I mean, not even to get into, I believe it was the Pyroraptor. Large feathers. They could hunt during snowy weather. Was confirmed through some like climatology, paleoclimatology, of course. I would have to go more research, but getting a little off track here. I just wanted to go over some breakthroughs that Sue has been able to make. And with every breakthrough that we have, there are still mysteries with any fossil, in particular the T Rex. We've never found a full skeleton, 100% completion, as they would typically call it. Sue herself is only a little over 60% complete. And it's interesting because it seems like each discovery that we have with the Tyrannosaurus Rex seems to have something a little more intact than the last one. This, of course, is based upon the environment, the way that they were buried, and everything else. I could definitely go more into another video on how the environmental impact can help with the preservation of fossils, but I'll let you know now. Sue, although over 60% complete and is still one of the more reigning champs in completion and has helped in a lot of research, isn't like the most complete. We still don't have everything. We still don't have all of the mysteries solved about Tyrannosaurus Rex. Main reason I did want to talk about this today was just within the past week. I've been researching Tyrannosaurus Rex, and I've been really wanting to go out over them. And I had discovered that a new specimen was discovered. His nickname is Gus, and he went out for private auction July 14th of 2026. So he went up for auction, and he did sell for over $50 million from what I could tell, an anonymous phone buyer. So they bought over the phone. This was through a popular private auction company named Sotheby's. I don't want to get too into the private auction scene just yet. I do have my opinions on that, but I just want to let you know that I just kind of want to go over why I hope that Gus may make it more into the science scene and why it hurts so much when these fossils go up for private auction. A lot of times in private auctions, it does make it difficult for museums to bid because just the amount of money that the person who put up the fossil for is looking for, the museum can't put those funds together. Museums typically run off grants and a lot of private donations as well, but originally Gus's estimate would start between $20 and $30 million. I don't know a lot of museums that have a lot of that sitting in their back pocket. So, and then I will say that also some of these auctions, when made private, I've never been present and I cannot back this up, sometimes stick to private and don't allow for any museums, from my understanding. But again, I cannot confirm any of this. I just want to put that out there, that is something that I've heard. So it's not only they don't have the money or the funding, it's just they may not be allowed to attend or bid on these. So I just want to go more in depth about Gus, and we kind of went into Sue and how amazing she is in the scientific discoveries that she has helped make. And I want to go a bit into Gus and how I hope that he ends up more on the scientific realm. Maybe the person can anonymously donate him. But I did want to go over because he enthralled me just before the auction while I was doing research just on Tyrannosaurus Rexes, because I just did want to go over Sue a lot. And when I found out about Gus, the amount of scientific discovery that could be done with him is just immense. Everything about him is amazing. And of course, I can say that about every fossil, but I definitely wanted to just go over what was found about him and kind of his history as well. I wanted to go over his history just to pay respects to the people who own the land, because people who originally own the land, or of course allow people to dig up fossils on the land, um, we don't have strict laws like in other countries where we live here in the United States, where if fossils are discovered, they aren't immediately property of scientific research. They're the owner's property and they can do what they want. So I just wanted to go over more about like kind of Gus's backstory and just why he would be an amazing scientific phenomenon if we could study him. But he's just amazing. So he was discovered by Thomas Heathcamp. Um, and they were hired on by a landowner. The landowner, from what I understand, passed away. His name was Gary Gus Lickington. He was a cattle rancher in South Dakota. Um, Again, nothing against the landowners. I understand, like it's hard to make it out there, especially with cattle owners. Um, But of course, in South Dakota, it's actually there's been whole TV shows about people digging up on in the Dakotas and Wyoming and a lot of cattle farming area fossils. Um, so they hired on the team of diggers to survey and search the parcel to see if he had something other than fragments. Typically, a lot with these prairie lands. I will go into a little bit of backstory. The prairie lands are really important part of the ecosystem. They have constant fire seasons that allow for the regrowth. A lot of plants within prairies actually rely on fire to activate a lot of the plant life, from what I understand. And they rely a lot on these fire seasons. They go through extreme droughts and then extreme heavy rainstorms. What happens and what makes it crazy cool for anyone hunting fossils in that area is that fossils could just tumble out of nothing. Well, not nothing, but just piles of dirt. Fossils just kind of tumble out and they're just there laying on the ground everywhere. And this is just due to the seasons that the prairies are known for. You could kick over a rock and it'd be a fossil. So it's really cool. There's some interesting shows about it. About some fossil hunters within those areas, and they talk a lot about it. But the ecosystem is just prime for. We have a lot of fossils that are Cretaceous based. In those areas, of course, you have Hell Creek Formation that's very popular within those areas. So, of course, actually, Gus was discovered since he was in the northern part of Dakota. It was pinpointed. So the team, I will definitely give a shout out to the team that was hired on. So with Thomas Heitkamp, I'm so sorry. I'm doing my best here, sir. I do want to give his team a shout out. They did do a phenomenal job in just a great research aspect of they marked the location. Gus was found in the Hell Creek Formation, and I was able to find drawings and depictions of just the field survey work that they did, and they put together what they dug up. A little known fact about myself: I have done field work in the archaeological portion of where I live. So just having these field maps, I can definitely read them, and just definitely, props to you. Some people just don't take a look at the scientific side. It's mostly about just digging up the fossils and getting them out. So according to, of course, from so with the team, it took them 3 seasons to map everything out, document the exact position of the fossils that were found in the field, and then try to put together what they had. Of course, anyone who may know anything about the Dakotas or anything about digging up in Hell Creek, you have to go in the seasons because you have that limited a lot of time before, after kind of like the cold snap before the rainy season to dig up, because it floods out there bad. But you also have to be careful as well because you don't want anything to get damaged while you leave. So it's very difficult, from what I understand, to work in those areas, but very rewarding. So over 3 seasons or 3 years, essentially, the team worked from 2021, 2022, and 2023. And I will say they did excavate the fossils, and they did prep them. From what I could tell, either the team did or they had someone else join the team to prep them, and they prepped Gus in immaculate condition. So Gus himself is also over 60% complete, making him the third Tyrannosaurus Rex that we would have in existence found, that is over 60% complete, which is a major find. But the just the biggest heartthrob about Gus not being introduced into the scientific community currently is what is preserved. So I can give, I just want just a brief rundown of what is preserved. His skull. So 45 of the 55 skull bones, for a total of about 82% of the skull, was preserved, with nearly all the major bones present. That is one of the most well preserved skulls, to my understanding, to date, especially for Tyrannosaurus Rex. Of course, I will say, if you do look at the skull, he is a little bent up, but that just comes with the natural process of when the fossils get rapidly buried. So, and then with that, the completion of the skull, a major portion of it's there. He's a little bent up. That's just due to the burying process, but that's okay. Just a great representation of the jawbones, the skull itself, the eyes. It's there. And then a majority of his teeth have been found, but with T-Rexes, you can kind of expect some teeth to get lost or picked off or scavenged, or they lose them over their lifetime, especially with an adult. Typically, of course, they won't, in all cases, end up growing back. And then the other really crazy part with Gus is that, so with dinosaurs and a lot of reptilians as well, they have something called floating ribs or belly ribs. These ribs, of course, sit on the belly, and they are literally, as it says, they float. The way that they are suspended is through, of course, a lot of muscles and tendons help prop it and keep it there. So with this, 30 of the 32 body ribs have been found. Now, again, these ribs rely on the muscle, the tendons, the skin to keep it in place. Once all of that is gone and the crushing weight of the earth is upon you, these tend to break. They're very fragile bones. Some of them are very small. They are not well kept together, of course, as well. The belly is typically known as a very soft spot on these animals. So it's just crazy that 30 of his 32 were recovered, and they could put them back together to put them on display for him. And they could just, reassemble him properly. And then he does have a majority of his vertebrae together as well, which, again, smaller portions of him. Of vertebra, of course, the backbones or your spine bones. Again, typically, especially in dinosaurs and like T-Rexes, they are very hollow, honeycomb-like shape, almost. They're very light in a lot of them. Of course, we wouldn't know that for now, because, if you were to look at a fossil, you'd say it'd be quite heavy. But that's, of course, because the fossil was it was mineralized. So the bone was basically encased, or all these minerals went in and filled in the spaces of where the bone would have been, creating it and making it more into a rock form than the weak bone that it would have been prior. Another fascinating portion of Gus that I learned from reading about him is that a majority of his legs still have like great surface detail. You could see where muscle scars are, and from where like the tendons would attach and help the body move. as well as from what I understand, it looks like his entire left foot is completely preserved, and then he also has um, essentially wounds that have healed over. So he's had damages to one or both of his legs, and the wounds have healed over, and you could see that damage, and you could see it healed over, which is always just fascinating to see nowadays because it just proves that he got injured, he healed, and he continued to thrive, which is, of course, the main thing that you would want within your environment. You don't want to be, fresh meat and just be left to be eaten by some raptors or something, whatever was located within your area. Um, so with Gus, I do want to say again, he was auctioned off, and to our knowledge, he was bought by a private buyer for $50 million. After that, I'll try to see if I can keep up with maybe where he would go. With the private buyers, they are typically very private, of course, in their lives. But I just definitely wanted to talk about him because of the amazing scientific implications that he could have and discoveries that can be made. Another thing too nowadays is that the paleontologists themselves are also a little heartbroken. I've read a lot of posts from a lot of different paleontological societies, specifically the one from of vertebrate paleontology. I do follow them on social media, um, and they, of course, explain that we have methods today that we didn't have 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and we are discovering new ways to work with these fossils, work with these massive animals. MRI technology has gotten better. We can help identify different things within the dinosaurs, as well as we're just learning new things every day involved with these animals. And they're definitely just an animal that's captured the imagination of everyone, of so many people that you can think of. They've made it into TV, movies, video games. Um, they've been introduced into all walks of life, and no matter where you come from, people can know what a dinosaur is. So the main thing that I hope is that maybe one day we could focus more on the monetary value that comes from the dinosaurs, the research potential, and just as well as, I mean, not only the research potential, but of course, the other thing that we also have to think about is with Gus being in a private collection, he won't be seen by the general public again. All we have is just photos of him. He won't be on display anywhere. We won't know much about him. We don't have research behind him other than what was published by the original people who excavated him. So I just want y'all to remember that science is just definitely trying its best nowadays. There are some hiccups that it has to go through. There are some barriers that it has to climb over in order to just get where it needs to go today. But just every day there's something new that is being discovered. It's just got to be worked through and published. And I want to do my best to help keep the word out there with something that I greatly enjoy and that I am currently studying in and have been studying for my entire life. It is something I've been fascinated in just ever since I was a kid. And I want to share my knowledge and share what I've learned with other people and just help other people just kind of be aware with what's going on in the community. But yeah, you know, definitely huge shout out Jurassic World Evolution 3. Definitely take a look at it. Most likely it'll be, catch me on Twitch. I'll be streaming on and off with this game as well, just working through the storyline currently. I build my own enclosures just to stream these bad boys, or as well as just do some recordings, just so we can get some cool interactions. I hope you guys just enjoyed, having this on in the background, or maybe just catching some interesting behaviors. The team does work really hard to do their research and try to have it mimic a lot of the behaviors that paleontologists have hypothesized. Because of course, since they're not here today, we can only hypothesize and plan out what they may or may not have done. So I hope that you may be able to catch some of the interesting behaviors that these animals present in the game that the developers worked so hard to introduce. And yeah, thanks so much.